Welcome to Real Health with me, Karl Henry. Folks, this is a scary episode, I won't lie. When it comes to tax, we all have a fear around it. What to do, what not to do. Are we doing the right thing, the wrong thing? So we thought we would bring in a tax expert. It seems so scary from the outside, so complex, so difficult, so confusing, that I think we all get scared by it. But I'm delighted to say that we have Mairead O'Driscoll, aka the Tax Nerd, to make taxes a little bit easier to understand and hopefully save all of our listeners a little bit of money. Mairead, welcome to the studio. How's it going?
Oh, it's great. Happy to be here.
This is health now in its real shape and form, because it stresses people out, right? So there's massive cortisol spikes around tax time of year. People are afraid of it, aren't they?
Oh my gosh, for sure. Like the feedback I get, from my page is people are afraid of the revenue, afraid of making a mistake. And I don't know, did the revenue drill something into everyone? Are they doing a really good job to make us all scared? It's like going to a Garda checkpoint. Even if your tax is in date, your license is in date, your car is perfect, your NCT, whatever. When you see the checkpoint, you're convinced you've done something wrong. Yeah. And I think when the revenue letter comes in the door, I think it's people are convinced they've done something wrong. Yes, for sure. And what a lot of it, I think, as well, is the unknown. People don't know about it. We're not really explained. It's not really thought to us anywhere how the basics of tax, how it works. So when you don't know something, you fear it. So I think, that's kind of the opposite of that. Then is knowledge is power. So I think just even having a basic understand would reduce that fear, for sure. I try to break down the basics for people because, I get so many questions from friends and family and they're nearly nervous asking me as if they should know. And I'm like, it's not explained to you, so how would you know?
We're not taught it.
No, exactly. And, tax affects us, every single time you're paid. It affects your whole life, really. It could be when you get married, there's tax implications. If you get divorced, if you buy a house, if you sell a house, if you get a gift, if you die, there's different tax implications. So it's there. So I try to encourage everyone to engage and just get somewhat familiar with it. This isn't fancy tax planning or anything like that. It's just the basics to be aware of because, we pay a lot of tax too. So as part of that, there are opportunities to reduce your tax bill. So, don't be afraid. Revenue aren't there to catch people out. They really aren't. And even recently, they've launched public information campaigns to encourage people to go and claim tax back and to file tax returns. They have reliefs out there, which I'll run through, that they want you to claim. So don't be afraid, I think is the...
How did you... the tax nerd thing, chat to us a little bit about that. Where did that come from? And tell us about how popular it's grown to be.
Yeah, so I've worked in tax my whole life. I studied accounting, and as part of that...
You light up when you talk tax, by the way. It's fascinating. We have experts from all areas that come into our studio and chat to us, right? They all light up. You light up about tax.
It's not the coolest thing. It's not the most glamorous at all. But I just started it because I studied tax in my college years, and then I did the professional tax exams. I worked in tax and I did the accounting exams, which had some professional accounting, which had tax involved. And I remember I was learning some relief for the 10th time, and I was like, what hope does any non-tax person have of ever understanding this? And I just found I was getting lots of questions off family and friends, and a lot of people just not knowing they can claim tax back. And I'd be like, did you claim your tax back on that? And they'd be like, no. And more often than not, I found most of my friends didn't know. So I kind of had to guess that, the general population probably don't know. So I just wanted to get the information out there, just the basics. So I started the Tax Nerd page with literally no intention behind it, but to get the basics of information out there. I was like, if one person saves €1, it was during COVID as well, so it was kind of hard enough times. Yep. I'd be delighted, and I couldn't get over the response. It grew and grew, and the amount of people that get on to me saying they never knew they could claim tax back, and they do it now themselves and they got so much back and it made their Christmas, or I was just so kind of pushed me on to keep going. But
that's the page has grown and grown. What are you at now?
Yeah, so there's just over 26,000 followers there now. Yeah, so I can't believe it as well. I didn't think anyone would be interested in tax, but
they listen, they get to save money. What's not to love?
Yes.
What are the basics then? Let's pull it back. So for people listening in who have that fear, where do they start? Where's the starting point?
Yeah, so obviously, if you're depends whether you're self-employed or an employee. I kind of focus more on employees because when you're self-employed, you usually would have an accountant looking after it for you. Whereas employees, are everyday workers. Your employer looks after the taxes for you. Firstly, so you might not think you don't have to do anything, and you don't have to actually file a tax return. But I encourage everyone to file a tax return, and that's how you claim tax back. So just kind of get used to the revenue website. It's really user friendly. So first of all, I would say just set up your revenue account, make sure that's set up, and get into the habit of completing a tax return.
On the website?
On the revenue website, sorry, exactly. And once you've that set up and you get into it and you file a tax return, it's more or less the same every year. So think about your working life for the next, 40 years. You'll do it every year and you could potentially be due tax back. So that would be the first thing. And then I suppose, depending on your personal circumstance, there's loads of different tax reliefs and credits you can claim.
And is there are they listed on the website?
On revenue, yeah, you can go in and have a look. Now, they're not like, here's the options. You have to look up a specific credit, let's say. But the most common ones I do see are medical expenses. That's really, really broad. So if you have any health expenses, you're entitled to 20% of the cost back. And that's if you pay for it for you, for your children, for your elderly parents. If you pay for it, you're entitled to 20% tax back. Now, it's on obvious things like going to the GP for checkups, hospital visits, but you also get on monthly prescriptions. Any prescription at all. If you're on antibiotics for a week for a cold, you're entitled to 20% back on the cost. So I encourage people as a tip to try go to the same pharmacy, and at the end of the year you can get a printout for them. Easy.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Okay. Claim the full amount back if you've never done it before.
This will sound very basic now, but this is where we're going.
This is lovely.
Okay, so you go to your pharmacy, they give you the form, you go to the revenue website. What do you do with the form?
Okay, with your so that's your receipt.
Yes.
That's your receipt. So you need to hold on to your receipts for 6 years in case revenue
so you file that away somewhere, and on the revenue website you put in whatever the number on wherever the amount is.
Yes, exactly. But on the revenue website also they do have a receipts tracker. You can upload it there as well if you want. So at least it's there. That's probably the best habit to get into. And then so you go, they give you a printout. Let's say you spent €1,000 last year in on your prescriptions, and you log in and you file a tax return. That's how you claim tax back. There's section 3 is the tax credits and relief section, and that has everything in there. So we're talking about medical reliefs now, but there's working from home relief, there's flat rate expenses, the rent tax credit. It's all in the same place. You literally put in the amount per your prescription, and then you just sign and submit the return, and the money literally goes into your account within a couple of days. So you'll get 20% back. But just on the medical costs, again, loads of people are like, oh no, I haven't been to the doctor. And I'm like, okay, but have you been to a speech and language therapist? Or did you have any non-routine dental? So have you paid for maybe braces for your children or for yourself, or root canals, crowns? Did you get travel vaccinations for you when traveling? You're entitled to tax back on that. Another kind of big one is if for anyone who suffers from any special dietary requirements.
Oh yeah, I see that on the my funds thing. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So if you're celiac, you're entitled to 20% tax back on the cost of all your gluten-free foods, which is huge, and a lot of people don't know that. And like that, a lot of the big stores or food stores, if you use a loyalty card, they'll tell you the exact amount, so you can claim 20% back on that. So medical costs is a big one. You can also ring your local GP for a printout for the last 4 years. So
it goes back 4 years is the time frame you can back review.
Yes, exactly. So if you've never done it before, you can do it now for 2021, 22, 23 and 24. And it's more or less the same every year. Put in the amounts, sign and submit, hang on to your receipt, and get into the habit of that going forward. So that's medical insurance relief. There's working from home relief. So that affects a lot of people now since COVID, and you're entitled to a certain amount back on your broadband and your light and heat costs. Revenue do a calculation of the amount you're allowed back. You don't need to worry about that. You literally just put in the total cost of your light and heat for the year, total cost of your expenses, and the number of days you worked from home, and the revenue will spit out what you're owed. So that's another one. I keep going through them? Keep going.
I'm taking it in as you chat. Okay.
Yeah. There is the rent tax credit. So that's actually a really, really valuable one. That's kind of a recent enough credit that came in 2022. So if you're renting from a landlord, you could be entitled to €1,000 tax back for last year and €1,000 for this year. So it's quite substantial. And that's per tenant. So if there's 5 of you renting the house, all 5 of you are entitled to it. Or if you're jointly assessed, it's €1,000 each. So if you're renting. Now, of course, there's conditions attached with everything. So the house has to be registered with the RTB, or you have to be living in a landlord-occupied home. So the landlords rent out, say, a room in their house. You can also claim it if you're paying for your student to attend third level education. So if you're paying for them down in UCC or wherever, you could get the rent tax credit as well as the parent paying.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's a really, really valuable one. And I think Revenue's stats were that like only half the people that they think are entitled to claim have claimed it.
No way.
Yeah. And again, it's so easy. You just put in the total cost of your rent for the year and you'll get it back. So
even, you're going through some of these already, and there's a couple of key things that are coming out. So one is keep all your receipts.
yes.
That's the first thing. Just keep everything. Put it in a pile somewhere and just keep them.
Yeah, or take a picture on your phone and put it in a folder or something like that as you go. Yeah. And
secondly is that the website sounds a lot more easy to manage than we think it is.
Absolutely. It is. It's really user friendly. They've divided the categories exactly, like whether it's health or working or your family. So yes, it's not, you can't really make a mistake.
So it doesn't take a huge amount of time then, is what we're also getting from you.
Yeah, it doesn't. No, and because the three main reasons I see people not, claiming their tax back is because they're too afraid, they don't know, or sometimes they couldn't be bothered. They're like, oh, that is too much hassle. And I'm like, if I told you like there's an envelope on the floor with your name on it and there's literally anything from 0 to maybe €1,000, €2,000, but it might take 10, 15 minutes to open the envelope, would you open the envelope? And I think you would. I think it's worth it if you thought there might be €1,000. So it doesn't take too long, especially once you get used to it. Like once you get the longest part is just getting your total number together. But I'd say you do it in 10, 15 minutes, genuinely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what are the ones that you commonly see on your Q&As that people are kind of putting in that they've forgotten about or they didn't know about? Yeah.
So another one is a big one is medical insurance relief. So this is only where your employer pays it on your behalf.
Oh yeah.
But so if your employer pays your medical insurance on your behalf, you are entitled to claim tax relief on that, because if you take out medical insurance on your own, you get the tax relief automatically. The insurer reduces your premium, whereas when your employer does it, you don't get the relief. So this one, I don't know why I have to say it 100 times before someone will do it, and then they're like, oh my God. So you can get up to €200 back a year for that. So like just recently, my friend, eventually I was like, have you claimed that back yet? Because I knew her company covered her insurance. And she goes, Mairead, I finally did it. And I did it for the last 4 years. So I got €800.
€800 back?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So medical insurance relief, if your employer is paying it on your behalf, that's another one that people seem to miss a lot. And it's a really easy one. You don't need receipts for that one either. So there's no excuse for that one if you're in that scenario.
And it doesn't just it also doesn't just apply for you. It can be from a lot of the kind of the claims you're chatting about. It's for family members. It's for kids.
Exactly. If you pay for it, then you're entitled to claim the tax back on it. So another thing I do see people saying a lot, they're like, oh, I filed my tax return, but I didn't realise I could claim medical insurance relief. That's no problem. You can go back and amend it. So you have 4 years to go back and amend to include anything you might have forgotten or you didn't know about. Maybe until after listening to this.
Chatting about the flat rate expenses rate.
Yes, that's another great one. So there's a tax relief called flat rate expenses, and it's a tax relief for over 200 professions. So Revenue have just decided how much tax relief this certain occupation will get, and they tell you how much. So an example of the professions, there's teachers, nurses, it's so broad, doctors, engineers, hotel staff, bar workers, mechanics, construction workers, journalists. There's 200 professions on that list. Okay. And Revenue have said, for example, if you're a nurse, you get a €600 tax relief.
Go away.
No, €600, but you get 20% of the €600. So I just want to make that clear because people get excited. Sorry.
I'm very excited there for all those 200 professions.
Yes.
Okay.
So Revenue will say it's €600 tax relief, but 20% of that is what you get. But it's so easy. You need no receipts again for that.
But 120 quid or something.
Yeah, exactly. And again, if you didn't know about it, it's my favourite party trick. If someone doesn't know, I'm like, and you can get it for the last 4 years, tick a box, and they get a couple €100 into their account.
And you don't get that automatically. No. Unless you actually have to go into the website and click the box.
Yes, exactly.
No way.
Yeah. Now, you can choose to have it applied to your tax credits.
Okay.
So that you get it throughout the year automatically. Okay. But again, you need to do that. So if you don't know about this, then, claim for the last 4 years and get it to apply.
God.
Yeah, so that's a good one as well. So if you know any friends or family that are any of those professions, it's worth checking if they're on there.
That's fascinating. And again, that's all through the revenue website.
Yes. Yeah, the list is on the revenue website. Yeah.
Okay, so I suppose to summarise this part of the conversation, it's about go on to the website first and foremost.
Yeah.
Play around with it. Realise it's not as scary as you think.
Absolutely.
Yep. And then look through the relief, see what's there for you that you might need to go do. And then you can go back 4 years. And then from a medical perspective, anywhere you're spending your money, have a record of your spend.
Yes, you need receipts. Exactly. And when you log on to that tax credit section, it has all the tax credits there. So you can see what might apply to you. Like there's a single parent tax credit, which is really valuable. There's a blind person tax credit. There's, nursing home expenses. There's, there is a lot there. So I'd encourage everyone just go have a look. And sometimes you might not be claiming anything back, but I would still say file your tax return because you could still actually be due tax back. If for some reason you overpaid taxes during the year, like it does happen if you were on maybe unpaid leave for a while or, on maternity leave and things like that. So just everyone get in the habit of filing it and hopefully get some money back.
Because we're all going to be rich. You. Okay, that brings us on to your pension then. That's the next big chat.
Yeah.
I get the sense it's getting more and more popular, or the awareness of it at least anyway. People are chatting about it a bit more.
Yes.
They seem to be from my random observation.
Yeah. So I think everyone hears this. Pension tax good, and maybe don't understand why. So
my hand up there,
yeah. So essentially, how it works: the government wants us to put money into our pensions. To incentivise us, they're giving us a tax relief to do that. So how it works: you get tax relief at the rate of tax you pay. So there's two rates of tax in Ireland. Either the 20% rate or the 40% rate of income tax, and that's whether you're self-employed or an employee, and that's what you or the Taoiseach, it doesn't matter, they're the only two income tax rates. In this example, if you pay tax at 40%, so that means you earn over 44,000 in the year, any income over that is taxed at 40%, which is a lot. That's just income tax, so it's close to 50% when you include USC. So essentially, if you decide to put some of your money into the pension, you'll get 40% tax back on that. So if you put €1,000 into your pension pot, you get 40% back. So €400 back.
Okay.
So that's really the incentive. So you've €1,000 sitting in your pension pot, and you get 400 tax back. That's where you're self-employed. That's how you claim the tax back. How you get the tax relief as an employee is that your employer deducts it from your salary before it's taxed.
Okay.
So usually when you get paid, you see your gross salary, which is really sad, and then you see your amount that you're left with after tax, and that goes into your bank account and you're free to spend it. Before it's taxed, you decide to put €1,000 into your pension, that €1,000 fully goes into your pension. If you decide, I don't want to put it into my pension, that €1,000 is taxed. So let's say, as I said, 40% in that example as an employee, you'll be left with €600 in your bank account to go and spend versus having 1,000 growing your pension pot. So I suppose that's kind of how you get the tax relief. Now, of course, there's limits. You can't be like, I'm going to put my whole salary into my pension and get full tax relief on that. You can't, unfortunately. It's limited depending on your age. So the younger you are, the less tax relief you get. I think they think the older you get, the more you can put into your pot.
Okay, so basically it's 40%. It's 40% tax reduction.
Back. Exactly. If you earn over 44,000 in the year, 20% tax back if you earned 44 or less in the year.
Okay, so that's the incentive to put it in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then for okay, so let's bring people through what happens to that money.
Yeah.
You get that money when you retire.
Exactly. Yeah. So just the bit before that, your pension grows over the next, say, 30 years before you retire, and any gain it makes growing is not taxable. So that's different to, say, if you invest in shares and they grow, that €1,000 grows to 2,000, you're taxed on the gain. Whereas when it's in a pension, it grows tax-free. But then you retire, of course, and there is tax implications there. Your pension income is taxable, but there is tax relief. So a certain amount of it is tax-free. So depends how you do it, but the first 200,000, you get a tax-free lump sum of 200,000 out of your pension. Okay. And then the next 300 is taxed at 20%. And then you can kind of manage what you do with the rest. You could just take out as much it's only taxed at 20% rather than the 40%. So
and chances are, if you have over $500,000 in a pension pot, now you have someone beside you kind of telling you how to take it out.
Exactly. So yeah, you get a tax benefit putting it in, a tax benefit as it grows, and a tax benefit when it comes out. So I think that's why, you know, all the financial advisors say it is the best way to invest your money. I'm not a financial advisor, and I'm not saying that I don't know it. And obviously it depends, you know, if you need your money now.
And if people are inquiring about setting up a pension, how does one do that?
That's a good question. So again, I'm not a pension advisor at all or anything like that. But do you know, there's so many pension providers. I would just reach out. They're dying to get people. Now, of course, the auto enrollment is coming in soon. So that is just where everyone is going to have to be auto enrolled into a pension, whether you have one or not. So that's going to be anyone earning over 23,000 in the year. But yeah, if you just Google
pension provider,
exactly. Yeah, they'll set you up.
Simple takeaways then for our listeners in terms of tax myths that you'd like to debunk while you have the platform to do it.
Okay, yeah. So I suppose I've touched on some of them, but what I'd like to debunk is the revenue are not out to get you. They want you to claim these tax reliefs. They're encouraging people to claim their tax back. The second thing I'd like to say is that it's not too hard to do. It doesn't take too long. It's really user friendly now, and it's more or less the same every year. And I suppose the third thing is, you know, just kind of make yourself a little bit aware. Like, you don't need to be an expert in it at all. You just need to have a rough idea, and whether that's just have a quick look, you know, on the revenue website about something you want to claim, or just have an idea. Like, don't look at your payslip, have a look and see what taxes are coming off, because, you know, sometimes mistakes can happen. So just, I suppose they're my three takeaways.
So it's around knowledge. Don't run from it, then hide from it, or put it hide it under the pile of stuff in the counter. Like, look at it.
Yes.
Address it.
Yeah. You don't need to put your head in the sand with it, I think, because it does affect your whole life, and we do pay a lot of tax. So even if you're entitled to €10 back, I'd love that to be in your pocket than in revenue.
Better in your pocket than over 4 years. Absolutely.
Totally.
If people want to find you on Instagram.
Yes, the taxnerd _. So I try to put information up there. I'm kind of trying to make it easy to understand. So yeah, you can find me there. And
amazing. Fantastic.
No excuse.
Right, thank you so much for coming in. We really appreciate it. Folks, I really hope you enjoyed today's episode of Real Health with me, Karl Henry. We're trying to put money back in your pockets, which is only a good thing and can reduce your stress levels as an absolutely part of health and wellness. If you like what you heard, don't forget to rate and review. You can check us out at Karl Henry PT on Instagram, and realhealth@independent.ie and on the Irish Independent website. And we'll see you next week for more Real Health. Slán go fóill.